starting again. Okay.
All right, so we are going to jump right in. Tonight we're going to talk about my budgeting portion of the Keeping Your Finger on the Pulse of Your Business series. Now, what I mean by that is understanding as an entrepreneur that you are understanding what it takes to run your business, what effect it's going to have to move your business in the right direction, whether a negative or a positive change occurs. Next slide. So tonight we are going to cover why it's important to create a budget. We're going to talk about how to create a budget, how to learn how to understand the cost of doing business. So you want to truly know what it costs you on a monthly basis, a quarterly basis, on an annual basis to operate your business. So we're going to talk about that tonight. And lastly, we are going to talk about how to use that budget versus actual comparison information to manage your business. Next slide. So how do we do that? How do we get our finger on the pulse of our business? It comes by managing your finance. And the biggest tip that I can give you, and I want you to remember this, is just because you have money in the bank does not mean you should spend it. So keep that in mind, because what you should be doing is being able or starting to plan for growth, being able to manage your finances so that you can weather any economic downturns. None of us thought anything about COVID-19 until it happened. So now what? So if you manage your finances effectively, you are able to weather these storms. And also plan for changing demands. You may need to change your business model. You want to be able to manage your finances in a way that while you are changing your structure, you are changing your direction, that the demands have now changed because of whether it's new technology, something new has come out, better, slower, whatever it is, that you're able to weather that because you have managed your finances effectively. We're going to talk about knowing your business. So when you manage your finances, you truly know your business. So if I were to ask the question, what does it take to operate your business on a monthly basis, that you would be able to answer that. Not an estimate, not I think, but to know that. Getting your finger on the pulse of your business means that you know what is going on. So the other question is going to be, how much does it take for you to live personally? Because when you operate, when you own a business, you have to take into account your personal needs versus your business needs and combine those together in order to determine what it's going to take in order for you to be okay, personally and professionally. You need to be able to manage your finances effectively. Also, part of knowing your business is understanding, now that I know what I have, what I need to spend for the business on a monthly basis, and I know what I need to spend from a personal standpoint for my household, how many service hours or products do I need to sell in order to survive? It's so important that you understand that, and going into that with your eyes wide open is going to make a world of difference. Building that foundation from the start, a solid foundation, gives you the ability to build a solid business. Getting your finger on the pulse of your business. Next slide. So how do we do that? So using your business data, you will learn how to manage your business. So what's important is that you collect the information that you need in order to manage your business. So you are maintaining any quotes that you provide to a potential customer. Why? That information is so important for you to understand whether you are quoting it correctly, whether you are out pricing, your based on the industry or the area. Are you bidding too low? You want to use that information, and you also want to track anyone that you have potentially that you have quoted. They are still potential customers in the future. You want to maintain that information. You want to track your sales. So absolutely, how much are you selling, whether it's a service or whether it's a product, but you also want to know what are you actually selling. So if you are service-based and you have different revenue streams, you want to be able to track that information so you know how to forecast. You know how to understand what's your best seller. You want to understand when is your peak time for these sales, when is the slow time, to be able to manage your business effectively. That information is so important. You want to be able to track your receivables collection. So how are you maintaining, or how are you collecting the money that is owed to you from clients? Are you collecting it? Are you collecting it on time? Are you on top of that? Again, keeping your finger on the pulse of your business. You know how to get paid, and you need to be able to identify your customer base. Your expenses, you absolutely want to know where your money is going to. Who are you paying and why are you paying them? So being able to track every penny that goes out of your business is so important for effective finance management. You want to understand how you're paying your vendors. Are you paying them on time? Are you missing discounts because you didn't pay them early? How much could you have saved if you had taken the discount? All of that information is, again, it's critical to you learning how to manage your business. So managing your finances is a key part of being able to manage a successful business. So after we collect all of that information, what do? We create a budget. That budget is going to, again, allow you to do an analysis and test your ability to manage finances. Next slide. So the reasons for creating a budget is going to be, it gives you the ability to control and limit expenditures. So again, you are managing this. The responsibility is on you as the business owner to use your funds wisely. So when you control and limit your expenditures, that you are able to say, we want to make this purchase, but it's not in the budget right now, and be okay with saying that. But then what that in turn does, it gives you the ability to start to plan. Well, we want to make that purchase. Well, if we do X, then in 3 months we can do this. And plan how you are using your finances. And again, being able to look at getting the best return on your funds by using it at the right time. It also allows you to create a financial roadmap. It is so important for you to have that financial roadmap to say, here's where we are right now. Here's where we want to be in 6 months. Here's where we want to be in 12 months. In order for us to get there, we need to achieve certain goals. We need to achieve certain financial goals. In order for us to do that, we need to do X. That means we need to sell X number of products or services. We need to be able to increase our revenue by 10% every month, by 15% over a quarter. Those are really, really critical pieces to you understanding how to build a successful business, creating that financial roadmap. That's what a budget will allow you to do. And it also allows you to plan for future growth. So again, as you start to say, I want to increase the business, I want to be in a brick and mortar space, I want to be have a virtual online portal. Those are plans for future growth. I want to add an employee in 6 months. Well, if I add that employee, what does that do? So now we have to plan for salary, but we also have to plan for payroll taxes. Does that affect our insurance? What else does that have? But it gives us the ability to plan for that future growth. That financial roadmap is a living document that you can follow as you move through your process. Build that solid foundation. When you can understand and you truly have the ability to control and limit your expenditures, you are managing your finances. You're able to predict what effect, if a slow time during your peak times, what effect that's going to have, because you're preparing for your slow time. So the summer months are slower for me. So what I need to do is to make sure throughout the year that we are planning for that slow time. So what do? You understand that effectively when you see it on paper. When you see it on paper, what's in your head is not necessarily going to be what it actually be reality when you put it down on paper. It's so critical that you do that. Next slide. So how do we create a budget? So after we have collected all of that information that we talked about on the previous slide, we can create a budget on paper. We can use Excel. We can use Google Sheets. We can, if you have an accounting system that you can utilize to have that real-time effect, there are multiple ways to do it. But understand, because you don't have an electronic accounting system does not limit your ability to manage your business effectively. Paper, a spreadsheet, it all can be done. So once we have determined how we're going to do that, then we need to make sure that we categorize our expenses. And we're going to categorize them in fixed versus variable costs. Now, what that means is fixed costs. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that terminology. Fixed costs are so important for you to understand that regardless of whether you sell no services or products or whether you sell 1 million, those costs have to be paid. So they are going to stay the same but they have to be paid every month. So that an example would be rent, insurance. Those would be fixed costs. It does not matter whether you sell anything or you sell an abundance of items. Those costs have to be paid. So you want to understand that. And then you have your variable costs. Those are the costs that are going to change each month based on your activity. It could be office supplies. It could be repairs and maintenance. It could be temporary or contract labor. So if you went to a temp agency to get through a project, those would all be variable costs. the costs are going to change each month, but you want to make sure that you categorize those correctly so you understand what your costs are going to be, what your carrying costs are going to be, regardless of whether you sell anything or not. So if you don't generate any revenue, those costs still have to be paid. So in those situations where you start your business, but you're not actually working it, some costs still have to be paid. That's what you want to think about. You want to be able to determine your budgeted expenses. So again, this gives you the mindset or the opportunity to truly analyze what your expenses are going to be. If you are starting your business with no information, so this wasn't a hobby that you now want to turn into a true business, but you are jumping in and you are going to start this business, but you don't have that past information to go by. This would be an opportunity for you to look at other businesses in the same industry and then use their basis, use their information as a means for you to establish your budget. So just because you are brand new or you are a startup does not mean you don't have information out there that you can use. So it's still there. So you want to be as effective as possible. You'll also want to forecast your income. So important. So you have your expenses, but you want to understand where your income is coming from and how you can plan for that income. And that is going to be based on several things. What client base do you have? What product do you have? What's the demand for that? If you have previously, if you've been selling, what's the trend? So again, understanding what your peak times are versus your slow time. You forecast what your expectations are. And again, you're looking at it from a standpoint of, here's the income that we expect to generate. And then you're going to get to that point where you're actually comparing what actually happened. So you're able to understand, are your estimates on target or are you way off? And lastly, you want to get to that at the end, so you're comparing that actual versus budgeted, but doing that comparison and looking at the percentages, understanding if you budgeted for that you were going to generate $2,500, but you actually generated $4,000, you are going to want to understand, well, why are we off? What did we do right? And is this something that we can continue? Was this a one-time opportunity, or was this something, or is this something that we can continue? Therefore, our revenue will absolutely increase. You want to understand that. It's not just about collecting the information. You need to be able to use that information to get your finger on the pulse of your business. Understand when you get a new contract what that's going to do to your bottom line. How is that going to increase your expenses? What is the overall effect going to be? So you want to understand that. So when you create that budget, you're getting that information. Next slide. So thank you. All right. So when you start to collect your business expenses, so this is just an example of a spreadsheet that I created to collect business expenses. So you want to identify, and notice it has every month. So if you're on a calendar year, it has the monthly. So can you reduce that size just a little bit? Okay, that's all right. Okay, that'll work. All right, so your fixed cost. So this is just an example of possible fixed costs. And again, it could be rent, mortgage payments, equipment leases. So if you have to lease a piece of equipment, if you are leasing computers, all of those, advertising, insurance, the cost to maintain your website, the hosting provider, any salaried employees, so employees that are getting paid a flat amount, your payroll taxes, any loan payments, those would be your fixed costs. The amount is the same. Every month you would be expecting to pay the same amount. You want to categorize that so you have that information. Down in the variable cost section, we have office supplies, delivery fees, postage, your vehicle expense. If you have legal or professional fees, think about telephone costs, utilities, travel costs, dues, inventory materials, your hourly payroll wages, contractors, training. Those would be examples of variable costs. But you really want to categorize where you are spending your money. This is just an example from another company, but yours may be different or yours may be the same, but you want to truly understand where is your money being spent. Those are the categories that you should be tracking. Where are you spending your money? You want to be able to understand that, because as you start to manage your finances and things get to be, you need to pull back on some things. You need to, in order to take an opportunity, you need to reduce your expenses. You need to know where your money is going. So understanding that and tracking that on a monthly basis is absolutely critical. Next slide. Then we have our personal expenses. So again, if you are operating your business and you are going to operate your business on a full-time basis, or your business, if your business needs to provide any income for your household, you need to be able to categorize. You need to be able to list that information, because if your personal household is depending on income from your business, then again, you need to know how much do you need to sell in order to sustain your business costs and your household. So this is where you would list all of your personal expenses, and this is again, what is your business supposed to provide for you from an income standpoint? If you are, I can't say this enough, if you are relying on any income from your business to sustain your household, you need to be able to track and budget for your personal expenses, because that's going to come together when we get a little further in your budget preparation. So, and I want you to note that I have retirement savings on this as a personal expense. Once you become a business owner, you lose that 401k. If you were working for a company who had a 401k, you still need to prepare for that. So that's part of that, but you need to be able to track all of your expenses. Next slide. All right, so once you have determined that information and that budget versus the person, your business expenses versus your personal expenses, that information, once you have truly thought about it and analyzed that information, that gives you information relating to how many hours you need to sell if you're selling a service, how many products you need to sell if you are selling a product, but it also gives you the critical information about pricing. So what is the minimum amount that you can sell it for and still sustain your business and your personal expenses? This budget information gives you the information that you need to manage your finances. If you price your products or your services incorrectly, and it still does not meet the needs of the business, you want to know that before you put that out to the public. This information is so critical for you to understand going in the door. How do you ensure that you are setting your business up for success? You're building that solid foundation. Understand, I cannot say it enough, understand what the cost of doing business is. Understand what those needs are. And once you have that information, now what you see on the screen here is the spreadsheet for budget versus actual. So remember, we still have each month, and then but what we have now is a budget column and an actual column. So that budget you have already set. Now you need to, at the end of the month, you need to go record what your actual numbers are, and what that is going to allow you to do is now start to manage your business. So if you look at this January, for service, we estimated, or we budgeted $2,500, but we actually did $1,850. For product sales, we budgeted $3,000, but we actually did $2,500. We are expecting to generate $500 in commissions revenue, but we only received $230. Understanding what happened. So our income was budgeted for the month of January for $6,000, but what we actually got was $4,580. Does it matter? Absolutely. Remember that financial roadmap. You know where you need to go, what goals you need to achieve to hit those goals. So now what you need to start to do is, why are we off? Did I overestimate, or did something go wrong? What can we do differently? But you want to be able to establish that. If we had, again, service at 25, but we actually received 4,000, as I mentioned earlier, you want to go back and start to think, what did we do differently? What did we do to generate more revenue than we expected? You want to be able to control that. You want to be able to understand so that you can make the best decisions. I will say this I will say this to you. The worst thing that you can do is to wait until the end of the month to know what's going on in your business. That should be a weekly thing. If you have your finger on the pulse of your business, you are watching this on a regular basis. I have been in business for over 20 years, and I am still, every Friday, what I do, I am looking at financial statements. I need to know what's going on in the business before it happens. So once I wait till the end of the month, it's a done deal. There's nothing I can do about it. It's done. But if I'm looking at it, if I'm on top of it on a weekly basis, then I can make changes. The way I make changes is knowing where my money is going to, where my money is coming from. Then I can start to control. I can't change my fixed costs, but I can start to restrict my variable costs. So we can pull back on purchases. We can pull back on travel. We can pull back on fees. Understanding what is truly going on in your business. Managing your finances. A budget is going to give you the opportunity to hone your skills, to be able to truly understand what is going on in your business. Next slide. So what are we doing? We are going to compare your budget versus actual. So as you manage this budget, you are comparing your budget versus actual. You are adjusting as you go. Now that means if you have generated or you have received a new contract that is going to increase your sales by $1,000, $1,500, or whatever it is, it's going to increase your sales by a certain amount for however long, for a period. You want to go adjust your budget to make sure that you are truly comparing what's truly going on. So you can go adjust your budget to meet or to match what is happening in your business. So as your customer base grows and your forecasted income grows, you want to adjust your budget to actually go along with what progress you are making in your business. If you have lost a client, and it happens, if you've lost a client and that's going to reduce your income, you want to be able to go back and adjust your budget so you are truly operating your business based on what's happening right now. So I can look forward that, okay, we've lost these sales, so now I need to be able to reduce my expenses. You have to be able to do that. Budget all income. So one of the things that you want to do, all your income should be budgeted. You want to establish that emergency fund. So again, no one was expecting COVID-19 to hit, but if you start to set up your emergency fund, you are prepared for these economic downturns. So start with trying to set up an emergency fund for 1 month, 2 months. You start to build that. You start to plan that. But being able to truly manage your finances, you know where all of your income is going. Remember, just because you have money in the bank doesn't mean you should spend it. You plan for those expansions. You plan for growth. You plan for that economic downturn. You establish your emergency fund. But lastly, but most importantly, you have your finger on the pulse of your business. You know how to manage your business. You know where your money is coming from. You know where your money is going to. You plan for those things. So that's how you manage your budget. That's how you manage your finances. You are on top of it. You understand what it costs to do business. Next slide. So the next steps is going to be for you to keep your finger on the pulse of your business. I absolutely implore you to take the opportunity to go through the exercise and truly understand what it costs you to run your business on a monthly basis. And again, if you are relying on your business to generate income for your personal household, that you are including that in pricing your services and your product. Next slide. And I will turn it back over to Michelle for questions and answers. To thank you. I appreciate you taking the opportunity to join me tonight. I'll turn it back over.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. That was absolutely great tips and guidance, because although every entrepreneur's journey, it may be a little bit different, there are some just key critical things that have to be in place for a successful business model. And one of those is a budget, and being committed to not only creating it, but also following it. So you definitely have given individuals some homework to do. Nadia, do we have any questions?
The question that we had, Cynthia had answered in the presentation, so we don't have any further questions at this time.
Okay, all right. Again, thank you so much, Cynthia, for joining us tonight. And as we move on to our next presentation, some of you may be wondering, well, I'm not really there with establishing my business yet. I'm just thinking about it. I haven't really decided what I'm going to do, or I'm not quite ready to say that I'm officially getting my business going. So I'll get to that budget, to that business budget. I'll worry about that when the time comes. But if you remember, in Cynthia's presentation, she talked about knowing about your personal finances. So as a small business owner, you can't lose sight of your personal finances even before you officially start your business. Because many times the initial financing that you need for your business is going to be dependent upon how effectively you are managing your personal finances. And it's going to be a reflection of if you have any money to start up, if you have the proper credit to use. So we're going to find out more about what are some things that we need to be doing. Desiree Walker will give us top personal financial tips that you should be practicing to set yourself up for entrepreneurial money management success. Desiree has over 20 years of financial experience ranging from underwriting, credit counseling, lending, and financial counseling and coaching. She is a HUD certified financial and housing counselor in Commonwealth Catholic Charities Counseling and Financial Counseling Division. And she, along with 4 other counselors throughout the state, provide personal financial management, credit counseling, debt reduction, pre-purchase, and other home buyer counseling. In addition, she does credit counseling, renter-tenant counseling, and financial education classes. Commonwealth Catholic Charities is a HUD certified counseling agency, and as you see, we do a variety of different services to help individuals with their finances. Since we've been staying at home, we've probably been maybe doing a little bit more online shopping, or I probably should speak for myself. I've been doing some more online browsing and occasional purchases. So Desiree, give us some insight as we about asking that question, to spend or not to spend.
Hey, thank you. So the very first thing we're going to talk about, next slide, please. One moment. Okay, just bear with us for one moment. Okay, there we go. So we talked earlier about the importance of saving for your business. So that is, of course, advice that you'll want in your personal life as well. And you've probably heard it all throughout your life, is that it's so important to have money saved. And I know we are all finding out how important that is right now with what's going on. It really has been driven into us over and over again with this pandemic. So that's why I want to start off with reinforcing in your personal life to have savings. And the rule of thumb is typically 3 to 5 months for most people. But if you're going to be relying on your business one day to sustain your lifestyle and your day-to-day expenses, you would probably need to have more like 6 to 12 months of living expenses when you're relying on that business. And I know that might sound very difficult to achieve, but if you get into the habit of saving now, especially if you haven't started your business yet, get into the habit now. even if you have to start with $50 per month. Put that money aside, don't touch it, and it's the consistency and habit that's key. And once you see that money starting to build, then you won't want to touch it. You'll want to have it ready, and you'll want to keep building it. So start with what you have and just form that habit. So important. So next, we're going to talk about your personal finances, or think of it as a business. Use your personal finances as practice for how you're going to handle your business finances. So some of the things that we talked about earlier, next slide please, is budgeting. So budgeting is a big deal in your personal life too, and this is a great time to practice. So we have a poll question for you. Do you have a personal budget? So please let us know.
So if everyone can just take a second to answer this poll question. Just a few more seconds. We're halfway. Okay. 3 more seconds and then I'll close the poll. Okay, and here are the results.
All right, so 73% of you have a personal budget. That is excellent. I'm very happy to see that, because that is going to be the basis for you to form the habit of handling a business budget. So if you think about your personal budget in the framework of a business model, it will help you get prepared for doing the things that Cynthia talked about. So some of that looks like what she just said earlier. So next slide, please. So when you're running a business, Cynthia talked about thinking about what kind of expenses you'll have. And that's vital in your personal life too. I think this is a key part that a lot of people don't think about. Yes, we get a savings account started and we get our emergency fund going, but a lot of people don't think about what's coming up. So start using your personal life as a model for your business life. Think, okay, I am going to have to replace the transmission in my car at some point. That might happen this year. I might need to get a new HVAC system. And then even things that are not part of your monthly budget, like travel, holidays, things that cost a lot of money that you have to be ready for. Those are anticipatory expenses that you can start to allocate money in your monthly budget for. So of course, most of you are keeping a monthly budget. When you set up that monthly budget, you'll want to, of course, include the things that come up every month, like your rent, mortgage, utilities. And then think about an amount that you want to allocate to those anticipated expenses for the year, and include that too. And that should be separate from your savings, your emergency fund savings. You want that emergency fund for the, oh no, I lost my job or something really major. Those anticipatory expenses are things that you know will happen and you're going to need to pay for. So plan for those ahead of time, just like you would for your business. Then you also want to track and revise as you go, just like in the business model that Cynthia talked about. If the time comes to replace that transmission and you budgeted $5,000 and it ended up costing $6,000, then you want to go back and look at your budget and think, okay, this costs more than I thought. How can I overcome that, make up for it some way, so that when you get to the end of the year or the end of the time frame that you budgeted for, it won't be too late. You'll have a plan to get back on track. The other thing is, like in your business that Cynthia talked about, knowing where all your money's going, same thing in your personal life. So when you're creating your budget, your monthly budget, you already have one, you might have already done this. You might have a category for spending money, an allowance. You want to be able to track even those little things like coffee at Wawa, lottery ticket, any little things that you spend money on. Keep track of that money so that you can make sure your monthly budget's on track. And then, like Cynthia was talking about, if you wait until the end of the month to look at where you've been spending your money, it's too late then. You can't make any adjustments. So get into that mind frame now in your personal life so that you can apply those habits to your business life when the time comes. So next, we're going to do another poll. Next slide, please. And a way that you can track your money is electronically, and there are several good apps that you can get. Here are 5 of the top apps. And the poll this time is, do you use any of these apps? And if not, give us, or just put other, if you don't use any of these top 3, the Mint, the YNAB, and QuickBooks. And while you're doing that, a lot of the apps that you can get are interchangeable with your business. So it's a good option to pick one that you can cook both together with, or if you don't want to worry about all that right now, just pick what's going to work for you. Some are more involved than others, some cost money. If you get one that's too much, you won't use it, and then it's a waste of time. So just pick one that works for your lifestyle and that you'll actually use.
Awesome. So I'm about to close the poll. And based off of the results, for those of you who have checked other, if you don't mind entering into the chat box what tracking apps you use. Thank you. And here are the results.
All right, so 73% use other. Mint is a popular choice, QuickBooks. I don't use any of those myself, actually, either. I use one I have an Android Galaxy, so I use, it's a very simple one called Spending Tracker. That's it. It's super easy, simple. And then we've got one that handwritten, I like that. Excel spreadsheet. So yeah, you don't even have to use an app. QuickBooks, we've got one that somebody just goes online. So there are different ways that you can track expenses, but the key is just use what works for you, what's going to make your life easier. And the key is to just do it however you want to do it, even if you have to carry a pad of paper and a pen around in your bag and jot it down, whatever works. So just track those expenses. So the next piece of your personal life, your personal finances that is so important, as everybody knows, is taking care of your credit. Having a good credit score and good credit opens up so many more options for you. You can save money on interest by getting the best rates, and you're not paying late fees, and it just makes your life so much better and so much easier. So, and yes, the next slide, please. So your credit score, I'm sure a lot of you already know how the range works. FICO is the most common credit score range, and that's the most commonly used by lenders, especially if you're getting a mortgage. You can count on them using FICO. The range is 300 to 850, with the higher the better. And there's not really, I don't want to say people say, what's a good score, what's a bad score? It just depends on the lender and what ranges, what their guidelines are. But typically, if you have a score in the upper 700s, you'll get the best rates. So aim for a score of at least 740 and up to get top rates. So next you might be wondering, how do they calculate my score? What goes into all that? And there are several pieces that are factored in. Number one, payment history. That's the biggest chunk of your credit score. And that's at 35% of the calculation. So of course, it's critical that you pay everything on time every month, stay on top of it, and keep track just like you do your budget. The other piece is capacity, and that is looking at mainly how you handle revolving credit and credit cards. So it's looking at, if you have a certain credit limit, how much of it are you using? And it looks at the total amount of lines that you have and what percentage you're using. If you're close to maxed out, that's considered high risk, and your score reflects that. So try to keep any revolving balances under 35% of your available credit if possible. Definitely don't go over 50. The lower the better. Try to pay your credit cards off every month if possible. The next category is the length of credit. That comes in at 15%. So of course, the longer your history, the better your score will be. And this also comes into play with older accounts. If you have a credit card that you opened up back in college that has a really high rate that you want to close out, expect that your score will drop a little bit when that happens, because you're eliminating that history now. Don't let that hang you up too much though. If you want to close out a credit card or a line of credit or anything that's carrying, especially an annual fee, go ahead and close it out unless you are about to apply or close on a mortgage. Then just leave it alone. You don't want anything to upset your score in the middle of that process. But it is only 15%, so if you need to close something out, go ahead and close it. Good thing about the credit score is it's a snapshot in time, and it will quickly bounce back. The next two categories are at 10% each. That's new credit and types of credit. New credit is when you open a new account, expect your score to dip some. As long as you're not opening new accounts all the time and accepting every store credit card offer, you'll be fine. If you're using credit wisely and handling your overall credit well, get what you need and don't worry about the inquiry and opening a new account. It's only 10%. Just don't go crazy and apply for credit all the time, and you'll be fine in that category. And then the type of credit is looking at a mix. So often now I like seeing that people don't want to get into debt, and I see people that don't have much. They don't want to open a credit card or get into debt. But the thing is, if you don't have any credit to show a credit history, your score won't be as strong as it could be. A stronger score is going to show that you can handle different types of credit. So if you have a credit card, mortgage, car loan, a varied amount of credit, that will help your score out. Now, don't go running out and applying for credit cards just to bump up your score. Only take out what you need, but do keep in mind that that mix, that varied mix, is the well-roundedness that the FICO score is looking for. Okay, so next, welcome to the 800 Club. I get this question so often: how do I get an 800 credit score? And my answer always is to people, you have to get old. But in reality, and that's kind of my little joke, time really is on your side with credit. And you don't have to have an 800 credit score to have good credit and get good rates, the best rates. It's nice to have an 800 credit score, but just aim to be in that upper 700, 750, 740 plus range, and you'll be fine. And the way to maintain that kind of credit score is time, depth of credit. Keep your credit card balances low, pay all of your bills on time, stay on top of it, just like Cynthia was talking about with your business. watching it all the time, being on top of things. Same thing with your personal finances and your credit. Just double check, make sure if you used an app to pay your bills, and I know a lot of people love to use banking apps now. It's so much easier than an old-fashioned register, but just, it's easy sometimes to slip up and forget something. So just double check and make sure everything's paid. Then watch for the small foxes. And what I mean by that is a lot of times I see on people's credit little medical bills or utilities or cell phone bills that report to the credit. Maybe you feel like you got ripped off, or you shouldn't have to pay a bill and you're not going to pay it. But it ends up on your credit and it will mess up your score and give you problems. So as aggravating as some of those little bills are, just pay them, get them over with, and keep them off your credit. And then again, staying on top of it, monitor your report. You can get a free copy of your credit reports every year from annualcreditreport.com. You can get your Experian, Equifax, TransUnion report once a year. However, right now, because of the pandemic, you can actually get those reports once a week until next April. So you can take advantage of that now. I don't know if it's necessary to do it once a week, but it's available to you if you want to. So go ahead and take advantage of it if you want to really keep on track and you're trying to make some progress with your score. But then next year, it'll go back to once a year. Take advantage of that too. Some people like to pull all three at one time to make sure there aren't any mistakes anywhere, or you can space it out and pull one every 4 months. Whatever works for you, but just stay on top of it. So next slide. Starting a business is really a lot of work. Taking care of your personal finances is a lot of work too. But use your personal life, your personal finances to be your springboard into the business, and use some of those techniques that Cynthia talked about in your personal finances and get that practice there. And don't get discouraged in your personal life. Don't get discouraged when you start your business. You can see that what everybody else sees is a lot different than what really goes into it all. So don't get discouraged. If you fall off track, just jump back on, keep going, and you'll get there. So finally, I just wanted to let you know that we're here for you at Catholic Charities. We have 5-person staff on the personal housing and financial counseling side. We have Lisa Robbins. She's our leader of the program, and she's based out of Newport News, and she works in Richmond at times. And we have Victoria Harris, based out of Richmond. We have Gary Collins out of Norton, Virginia, out in Western Virginia. We have Jose Cuerva down in Newport News, and then I am here in Richmond and Petersburg. And we are happy to help you. We'd love to hear from you if you have any concerns or you want help with dealing with your credit, creating a budget, kind of getting ready to make that leap into business ownership. We're all certified housing counselors, so if you're looking to buy a home, we can help you get ready for that process. And we can even do the backside of it. If you're struggling with your mortgage, having rental issues, we can help with that too. So right now we're only accepting phone appointments because of the pandemic, but once the quarantine lifts, you can either do a phone counseling or we can do one in person later after quarantine. But for now, just on the phone.
Well, thank you so much, Desiree, for personal financial management and the importance of treating it like a business. You know, many times when you're dealing with finances, it's an emotional thing. It can become frustrating at times, but the more you practice it, the more you will improve your personal finances and set yourself up for investment into the future, for your future entrepreneurial initiatives and journey that you want to take. Do we have any questions, Nadia?
Yes, Michelle, we actually have one.
Okay.
Um, are there any options available for small business loans if you have poor credit?
If you have poor personal credit, I'm assuming.
Yes. Yes. They didn't
Yes.
specify, but yes.
Yes, I mean, that would depend. I know that's an answer nobody really likes, but do keep in mind personal credit issues will make it much more difficult to get approved for a business loan. I don't think it's impossible. A business loan is treated much differently. There's not a credit report for a business, and they look at different factors. So it's possible that you could find a lender to get a small business loan. In fact, even some credit unions offer them. But the personal side can come back to haunt you. It depends. Sorry, that's not the most um, precise answer.
Well, thank you, Desiree. We don't have any further questions.
Okay. Well, thank you. As we come to an end tonight, I think that definitely we've covered a lot in a short amount of time. And we did hear some common themes about needing to set goals, short and long term, and that you got to have a game plan for every cent, and you need to create boundaries before you spend. And that your behaviors in your personal life will definitely lead to helping you to create good behaviors for your business, and that it all kind of interrelates sometimes, and in looking at what impacts that those have for our future. And managing our finances, yes, it can be trying, but it's also can be a rewarding experience. And sometimes in trying to, as we look at with a business, and trying to juggle both business finances and manage our personal finances, and sometimes those priorities that don't always align, but the task of managing both is going to be so critical. And we hope that you've gained some tips tonight that will start you on your way. And as you continue to embrace your inner entrepreneurial spirit, don't forget that you can reach out to the individuals that presented tonight and resources from our workforce development staff. Our workforce development staff, they provide employment services, job placement, and on the personal side, they can work with you with preparing your resume, getting your interview skills, looking at with customer service, and skills with those soft skills of what's needed, because you need those either way. If you are actually going to be going to a job, or if you're going to be your own owner of a job. You need to know what those are. And then if you're going to be hiring people, what is it that you're going to be looking for with those soft skills? We can assist with job placement. And of course, we can work with you with our small business development. In our small business development, we focus on emerging entrepreneurs. And last year we had a course, and we're looking forward to start enrollment for that in the summer. For Mind Your Business, it's a 9-week small business course that's focused on providing participants with the fundamental stages of owning and operating a small business through training, workshops, and support. During the duration of the class and the training, you will have access to technical support and one-on-one business counseling with an experienced business coach who presented last week, Pat Hood. At the end of the session last year, the participants were able to compete for a grand prize of up to $3,000. We had 3 individual winners, and we're hoping to have that same type of investment this year. So stay tuned, continue to come to our website, and we will be announcing it when it's ready for the opening. We hope that you will join us next week. And on next week, the series topic will be, what's the difference between marketing and branding? And why do you need to know anything about branding? Well, discover the answers to that if you join us, and we'll be talking about the importance of both for a startup business. Thank you again tonight for joining us. We hope that you stay safe and healthy. Have a great evening, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Good night.